morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 630 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, April 21st, 2025, and it is a bit of an overcast day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and Psychic Tarot Canada, or psychictarot.ca. Before we go any further, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
Truth be told, I think I'm pretty good. I've been up since 4 a.m. though, and I was feeling horrible all day yesterday and not feeling great this morning. I'm wondering if I don't know if it's an allergy thing or if it's a cold. I think it's allergies are rearing their ugly head with the mold coming out of the ground from the post-winter snow. Because I've been sneezing and coughing and wheezing, and my eyes have been runny, and I've been nonstop sinusy. It's been a rough couple of days. Was not what you'd call a great weekend. I did go to the Ottawa Atletico match though on Saturday afternoon, and they won with about 10 seconds left in added time, scoring the go-ahead goal 3-2. So that was a lot of fun. My buddy brought me, and I quite enjoyed that. But yeah, it was an early evening Saturday, and I wasn't feeling great all day Sunday. I was supposed to go to dinner with my family, but I was not well enough, and I don't know, if it's a cold or if it was allergies, and I didn't want to get anybody sick. So I'm not mentally, I'm okay, but physically I feel like hot garbage.
Oh.
So yeah, that's how I am. Yeah. Well, I mean, you were sick last week. So
Yeah, I'm just kind of getting over it. I'm not feeling as congested right now at the moment, but before going to bed last night, I still was. So I've gone through industrial quantities of Kleenex over the past few days.
Need to apologize to the folks. For some reason, Restream is not behaving this morning. That's why it took so many attempts to get this up and running. And I apologize, but it is beyond my control when the software you use to actually do the show is functioning at about 15% right now for some reason. So we might be a little choppy and things might break down a little bit. It's completely beyond my control. We are at the mercy of the studio software we use at the moment. Maybe time to investigate another alternative because it's been really problematic lately, and I'm not enjoying that.
Yeah. If there are other options, then we should definitely look into them because
Yeah, there's a few different ones. There's one exclusive to Mac called Ecamm Live, but I have to learn it before we even venture down that highway. And then there's StreamYard, which is also a good one. Restream has been very good, and I've enjoyed it, but lately it's been very problematic. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, that's my lamentations this morning about software and technology.
Lamentations. I love it. In the spirit of the moment there. For all of those of you who celebrated over the course of the weekend, of course, I hope that your Easter celebrations were wonderful. If anybody else was celebrating anything else, of course, same here. I, of course, because I had a cold, stayed home so as to
Mhm.
not get anybody else sick, particularly since my, for all intents and purposes, father-in-law is about to head to Italy on a wonderful vacation.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
Fantastic.
I probably shouldn't try to interfere with that in any way by giving people bugs.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, just before you get on a plane, last thing you want is a head cold,
Oh
or
my
to be sick for that matter. But get on a plane with a head cold. I've had to do it before. Well,
God.
not a head cold, but severe sinus issues due to allergies. Do not do that unless you can load up with decongestants and antihistamines, because the pressure on your head, it's going to hurt. It's
Mm,
going to hurt something terrible.
mhm. All right, a couple of tidbits, kits and cubs, before we get going on the show itself. Of course, if you have been watching the Women World Hockey Championships, uh, what a match for the final. Um, so many records scored, but it's like, I think, in the semifinal too, I think in the semifinal,
Mhm.
Canada scored like 3 goals in a very short period of time, which was like the 3 fastest goals scored at a Women's World Championships ever. And then,
Oh,
oh yeah, and then the next day, very defensive first period, and then all of a sudden 4 goals in the space of like 2 minutes, and like 2 US goals like in 30 seconds, and then less than 1 minute later, 2 Canadian goals in 55 seconds. Um, it's just a major penalty where a Canadian player was rushing for a puck and the goaltender was going to get it way out of the goalie crease, and just a major collision. I mean, the match had everything. And it
mm.
went to overtime as it should, and
Yeah, but that's
unfortunately,
what you want to see, right?
yeah,
You
yep,
want to see a
absolutely,
thriller.
absolutely, and
Didn't
unfortunately, a
get the
bad
result we wanted.
yeah, a bad decision, because, at the Women's World Championships, there's no shootouts, right? They play 3-on-3 hockey in overtime. So, when somebody changes out, it really has to be at the exact right time, and they were just a bad timing on a change out made it such that the puck landed right on a US player's hockey stick and then went in the net.
Yeah, well, that's what happens sometimes.
Womp,
That's
womp,
why you play the
womp.
game.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of games, I watched the Ottawa Toronto game last night, and Toronto trounced Ottawa 6-2 on the scoreboard. But on the ice, it was a different story. It was a much closer game than the score would dictate.
Mhm.
Toronto just played much better defense, and they capitalized when they had chances. It was a closer game. Ottawa outshot Toronto, actually. So, no, just better defense by Toronto all around. And Ottawa definitely showed their youth and the first time they've ever been in a playoff game for a lot of the players. Whereas Toronto, you know, every player on that team for the most part is a veteran playoff player now. So they got a better vibe on it. Hey, game one, right? So it's a 7-game series. You need 4 games to win it. I think this series will go to 7 games. And honestly, in my heart, I want Ottawa to win, and I think they can. But to be truthful, like 100% truthful, I don't know how to call this. And that's the truth. I
Mhm.
don't know how to call it. It's, game one, Ottawa won all 3 games during the season. It's the playoffs, which is a different series. Where do we go from here? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I do predict 7 games. I cannot tell you who's going to win the series, though. And that's the honest to goodness truth. I
Hmm.
just can't.
Interesting, interesting. All right. Also at the women's, also talking about that, the Jets won their first game against the Blues.
Yeah,
Boom,
that
boom,
was a
single
thriller,
Canada
too.
go.
And game
Yeah.
2, I think, is game 2 today for the
Uh,
Jets? I think
I'm
game
not
2 is
sure if
today.
game 2 between the Jets are today. I know there's, the other Canadian teams that haven't, uh, played yet are, definitely on, the lineup today. Edmonton is playing, oh, yeah,
Montreal
Winnipeg's got
plays
the,
today.
yeah, Montreal, yeah, but it is, game 2 for Winnipeg as well. Yeah. So there you go. Should be very, very exciting. Also at the Women's World Hockey Championships, just to note, Canada's captain Marie-Philippe Poulin became Canada's all-time leading Women's World Championship scorer after putting up 2 points in the semifinal victory over Finland. Playing her 13th Worlds, Poulin moved to 88 points, 2 clear of Hayley Wickenheiser, who retired with 86 points in 2016. And also, I believe that Marie-Philippe Poulin became one of the few members on Team Canada to have played 200 matches under the Team Canada banner during her career, and so did Jocelyn Larocque, becoming the first defense player to achieve the honor. So there you go. Lots of history being made.
Saucy Seawitch, the way the year is going, it may be time for the Leafs to win. Everything else unlikely has been happening.
I thought that's where you were going with your sentence, actually.
Well, I don't win this series. Look, I'll tell you what. If the Leafs get out of the first round, if they beat Ottawa in the first round, they have a very good opportunity to make it to the Stanley Cup final. Charles Barkley predicted the Leafs and the Oilers in the final, with the Oilers coming out on top. If Ottawa loses to Toronto in the first round, I'm going to go with Charles Barkley on that. Leafs-Oilers final, with the Oilers winning in 7. That's my take. If the Leafs get out of the first round, there's no guarantee. They've only been out of the first round once in the last 10 or 12 years. They've been knocked out in the first almost every season, with the exception, was it last year? I think they made it to round 2 for the first time in ever.
Yeah. I can't remember how long, but yeah, there was a recent one. But I think I heard a stat that in all their Stanley Cup round 1 playoff matchups against the Ottawa Senators, they've won every time.
Yes, they have. Yeah. But I mean, it's been 21 years.
Yes.
You got to remember.
It's been a long
most
time.
Of the players on the team were like infants at the time.
Oh yes, absolutely. If born, some of them.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's 21 years ago. So yeah, that's a good. There's a couple of youngsters there, and the other thing to consider too is the game has changed quite a bit since then too, right?
Absolutely.
The rules have changed since then, and the game has changed since then. So who comes out on top, I don't know. But yeah, I think if Toronto does get out of the first round, and they do have a first round curse, that they've never played in the fourth round, not once ever.
Who?
Toronto.
Oh, okay.
They've never played in the first round. Fourth round
because
the last time they won the Stanley Cup, there was only 6 teams. There was only 2 rounds. Right. They played the third round against LA in 93 when Montreal won the Stanley Cup. They lost to LA in Game 7. Montreal went on to beat LA and win the Stanley Cup, and that was the last time the Stanley Cup was held in Canada by a Canadian team. So who knows? Does that change this year? Possibly.
Yeah. Let's but I thought that's where you were going with your sentence. I thought you were going to go, I love the Senators one, but this year I really would like to see the Leafs.
No, I don't want to see the Leafs win a goddamn
That's where you were going with it.
No, you'll never hear me utter those words. Look, if it was the Leafs and I don't know, the Ducks in the final, I would cheer for the Ducks. Sorry.
Come on.
I can't cheer for them, man. I just can't. You know why?
It's been over
and I'll tell you why.
Years.
I'll tell you why, though. I'll tell you why I can't cheer for them. It's because of the only time, when Toronto's in Ottawa playing, there are so many Leafs fans in the stadium. Okay, they probably outnumber Sens fans, and a great number of them have come up from Toronto because they can never attend a game in Toronto because A, getting a ticket is next to impossible, and B, the price of a ticket is unaffordable. It's cheaper for them to come to Ottawa for the weekend to watch a game than it is to go to Toronto.
Yep.
That, and coupled with the fact that these are the worst hockey fans that come to Ottawa. They're just terrible. No, they really are. No, sir, I'm not kidding. Okay. I've seen them get into fist fights in the stands in Ottawa. Literally.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Throwing beer at each other, punching each other. What the hell is wrong with you? That is not cool. But when Ottawa fans go to Toronto, that doesn't happen. It's when the Toronto fans come here that happens because you're getting the worst Toronto fans. I have a lot of friends that are Leafs fans who are hockey people who know the game and love the game and will give respect to good players who play well. It's the terrible fans that I'm rooting against. So that's why I can't cheer for them.
Okay. There's a method to the madness.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're right. Uncover the news. The Oilers and the Flames fans do the same. Yeah. It's the guttural. It's like, look, I come from a long line of not wealthy people, but we do know how to behave.
Mm. Mm.
We do know how to behave. You don't. You simply don't. It's a game. It's a game. And you paid money to attend it. Why are you trying to hurt somebody? What is wrong with you, man? It's like, and I love people who go, yeah, well, we won that game. I'm sorry, do you play for the team? Are you in the NHL? You're 62 and you weigh 300 pounds. I don't think you're a member of the organization. What? I'm stating a simple fact. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Well, it's the team I cheer for. Man, I cheer for Ottawa, but I don't say we. I don't work for the organization. They don't pay me. Matter of fact, if I want to wear one of their sweaters, I have to pay a couple $100 to do it. That's why I don't own one, because I refuse to pay money to advertise somebody else's product. You want me to advertise your product? Pay me. This is the closest I'll get to advertising.
I was just going to say, same thing, because I wore the Ottawa Sens.
And this was a gift.
Polo.
Somebody gave this to me
a
long time ago.
The other bit of tidbit news.
We're going to be talking hockey a lot for the next few weeks.
Yes. If you have not heard it yet, because you're fresh up, the Pope.
The Pope passed away, yes.
Has passed away. Now, J.D. Vance visited the Pope, and the Pope passed away.
Oh, I mean,
I'm not saying these two things are linked.
It has something to do with this.
Oh, God, I'm not saying. I did not see that coming.
I'm not saying, but, you know. It's, for those of you listening, it's a picture of J.D. Vance with a sickle greeting the Pope. So it's kind of a sickle or a scythe. I don't know. It's the thing that death carries, you know, a scythe. So it could be that. I don't know. It might have something to do with that.
Oh, I did not see that coming. Oh my God, that's awful. And it's so funny.
It's awful and funny at the same time. The Pope was 88, and he just suffered a severe bout of pneumonia. I didn't think he was going to make it through that. So I think he hung on for as long as he could. This death is really sudden. Like very sudden, because he had just recovered from pneumonia.
Yeah.
So look, every time the Pope just dies like that, it's always a little suspect. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Draw your own conclusion. I'm not putting a conspiracy theory out there. It's just, it seems odd that somebody who just was given a clean bill of health just...
Well, again, clean bill.
He was 88.
He was still struggling. Like this
yes.
He didn't do that much that day. But yeah, I keep on hearing stories of that. I hear stories of that all the time. Like, for example, one of my ex's grandfathers hung around long enough for his granddaughter's first communion, and then 2 days later, right?
Yes.
Because on the day of the first communion, alert and talking to everyone, and it's like one little last burst of energy, and then, whew. So the Pope was there for Easter Mass, and didn't say much, but waved to the crowd, and I think he maybe said a little something, but like didn't deliver a sermon or anything. And so if we were independent media, like certain independent media, the fact that two events happened at close proximity to each other would mean absolutely definitely that somebody did something. But we're not like that. So that's why we laugh and giggle, because, we hope it's not true.
Mr. Jim says here, it's common to rally after pneumonia and then pass. I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I was not aware of that. Wow. Okay. Well, it really takes, your body takes a beating from it. So that can, that can make that.
And it was double pneumonia, and they said that he almost died while he was in hospital. Yeah.
And from Chris Sturwell, 7 Hail Marys and 2 Our Fathers, everyone, for laughing at the photo of the J.D. Vance with the Pope. That's your penance. When I lived in Newfoundland, we had when we were doing our no, I'd already had my first communion and first confession. I think we were getting ready for I can't remember. Anyway, because I went to Catholic school there, and one of the during how back when he was a boy, sometimes the priest for penance would make you say 10 Hail Marys, 4 Our Fathers, and you need to fill your boots with peas and walk around the church 27 times. I'm like, what? He goes, oh, yeah, yeah. I'm like, that doesn't sound right to me. He goes, oh, sometimes they hit you with a lash. I'm like, I think there was some sadistic pricks that entered the priesthood back then
Mm-hmm.
because they knew they had power over people, so they could do what they want. Like put a can of peas, like dump cans of peas in each boot and walk around the church 27 times. I'm like, they need to do some vetting for people entering the priesthood for other reasons today, right? I mean,
mhm. So, for those wondering a little bit here, according to the BBC, the Pope's funeral will look a little different to ceremonies past. Proceedings will begin with the Vatican's highest ranking Cardinal, Kevin Farrell, presiding over the rite of the confirmation of death and placing the Pope's body in a coffin. A papal funeral has traditionally been an elaborate affair, but Pope Francis recently approved plans to simplify the whole procedure. The late pontiff opted for a basic wooden coffin and scrapped the tradition of placing the Pope's body on a raised platform for public viewing. Instead, mourners will be invited to pay their respects while his body remains inside the coffin with the lid removed. Francis will be laid to rest in the Basilica of St. Mary Major in Rome, the first time a pope has been buried outside the Vatican in more than a century.
wow.
Interesting. It'd be interesting. We'll maybe find out later on, like with memoirs or something, or maybe after a certain amount of time, maybe it gets released why it is he made those choices. I have a feeling he might have documented that as well. But yeah, interesting. Oh boy.
Coming in from SRCX here, he says, I've called federal elections since 1980 with 100% accuracy. Poilièvre will never be Prime Minister of Canada. And then goes on to say, Atlantic Canada, Quebec, and Ontario will be a Liberal landslide. What happens in the West will determine whether or not it's a Liberal majority government. Something I want to add to that is I did get out and vote on Friday, and I waited 2 hours to do it.
Yes.
I have never waited more than 10 or 15 minutes in my life to vote.
Yes.
And I was like 2 hours. City Hall, 3-hour wait on Good Friday. Saturday, same thing. So I'm like, people are coming out to vote in this election. I think as of yesterday morning, 2 million ballots had already been cast.
That was for because I've been looking for data on this. The early voting is definitely very enthusiastic, but that was for the Good Friday only, the 2 million. I've been looking from some updated numbers, including Saturday and Sunday, and I still haven't found that. So that's 2 million on Good Friday only, and not counting any special ballots. Anybody that went to a returning office and voted beforehand. This is just strictly at advance polling.
So
now,
people are coming out, paying attention. People are getting involved.
Right. Now, if we want to be absolutely, completely, again, right, not wanting to jump the gun in anything, there is a lot of that could potentially be just people wanting to do it on Good Friday, statutory holiday, get it done early in the day. It's very convenient. It seems that things were really busy until like 1 o'clock, still busy until 4, and then after 4 p.m., things calmed down. So it could have been a lot of people doing it before going away for the weekend. So I don't want people to run away and say, "Oh my God." That's why I was looking for the next numbers to see if that was continuing, right? Those numbers haven't come out. So it could be just a matter of convenience.
So that was just Good Friday. It was 2
But
million.
it's still a record for one day, and more people are voting early, like from election to election, right? I think 34% of people who voted in the previous election voted early.
That says, you know what? We're going to make Election Day a holiday so that there's no way for people to be impeded when they want to cast their ballot. Restream is really cracking up right now. My apologies, folks. I have no control over it. It's Restream. It's my processor's running at 20%. I have nothing running in the background that would impede. Its Restream is being very problematic this morning. But yeah, I think this would be the catalyst to say, let's make Election Day a holiday so that it does not, there's no impediment there. You know, you're supposed to have 4 hours to go and cast your ballot, right? Legally. So you can leave work to go cast your ballot during the time that the polls are open. But that's not always convenient for everybody because a lot of people work 2 jobs just to make ends meet today.
Right.
You know, working 70, 80 hours a week just to keep a roof over your head and food on your table is not how things are supposed to be. It's wrong. It shouldn't be that way. People go, "Oh, you got to hustle, you got to grind." No, that's wealthy people convincing you need to work twice as hard for half as much, and that's wrong. So
Mhm.
let's make it a holiday, so that people will have no impediment. No excuse, no impediment. Now it's their choice whether they vote or not, but no excuse, no impediment. You have the day off. Go cast your ballot. Do the correct thing and do democracy.
Mhm. That's a good suggestion.
I'm
Might
going to
do.
get a coffee. I'll be right back.
Right. So the other numbers I was looking for was for the debate viewing because we heard that 1.2 million people turned into the French language debate, but I was trying to get some numbers for the English language debate and also not been able to find those at all. So I'm not sure why second and third early voting day numbers have not been made public, and I'm sure the English debate ratings somehow have been made public somewhere, but why they haven't been picked up upon and broadly reported, because usually they are. So unfortunately, I cannot bring that information to you, kits and cubs, sadly enough. Um, for those who are watching the polls, there keeps on being a slight narrowing of the polls as they're going in. I'm not sure if that's symbolic of anything. Um, Again, for my liking, there hasn't been enough time, but there seems to be a bit of a swing. Is it a big enough swing? Does it have a lot of momentum? Again, can't really tell at the moment. So, but things are showing a slight narrowing. Everybody's still showing a liberal majority at this moment. Um, so again, uh, we still need a couple of a couple of bits more of data, but as has been mentioned, in the places you can't look at the top line number, right? You have to look at vote efficiency, and many parties have vote efficiencies, different vote efficiencies in different regions that are concentrated, and lack of vote in certain other regions as well. And then, of course, you have to, because we're representation by population. So when you're looking at Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia, and how the vote is going out there, you get a better sense. And as SRCX has said in the assessment that we shared, and it's one I agree with too. Uh, you know, up until you get to the Ontario Manitoba border, um, that gives you a pretty solid idea of maybe a liberal minority based on the data coming to date. And then as you go further west, if they're able to convert those to 7 seats in, or five, at least five, let's say, of those 7 seats in Alberta that are potentially good for them and can actually outperform what they have been doing recently and what the polls have been showing recently in British Columbia. And right now, it is looking like that because of the drop in the NDP vote. It could be exactly British Columbia and Alberta that determine whether or not it's a majority or a minority. Now, there is still time also for some additional votes to migrate the Bloc's way in Quebec. It does seem the slight narrowing after the polls does show the Bloc picking up a couple of more seats. Uh, but the thing is, there's no ability to tell if that's a strong push or it's just like a 1 or 2 seat sort of difference coming into the last week. So we'll see more over the next couple of days with what the polls say. But again, a lot of people
Mhm.
are already casting their vote.
Well, and this from Saucy C, which is mandatory voting and mandatory one stint in working an election to understand how it works. All the conspiracy over pencils is bananas.
Yeah.
Like that one. I'm like, tell me you don't know how our system works
Ugh.
without telling me.
Yes,
Oh
for
my.
those who didn't hear about it, apparently the latest conspiracy is that there's something special about the pencils that make them gravitate towards a circle that you just like just all your human strength just and there's something really
Like,
yeah.
somebody who's counting my vote can erase it and put in. No, that's no.
No,
They're
first of all, okay.
scrutineers, which means people watch. The ballot is counted. There are no pens or pencils on the table for the counter. They look at the ballot, they say, one vote for this person. They hand it to somebody else who verifies it, and there's somebody who stands behind them to verify everything.
Yep,
That's how it works. They're
yep,
scrutineers. Our friend Flavio Volpe has been a scrutineer. I think he said it half a dozen times or a dozen times almost.
yeah. So like the Leads on the pencils that Elections Canada uses, and they're there because Elections Canada has to, by law, supply something with
Mhm.
which you can mark your ballot, is unsmudgeable, right, pencil thing. But you can bring your own writing implement if you want to. You have always been able to bring your
Yeah.
own writing implement if you want to mark it as well. I was listening to some fact thing. You can mark an X. You can even make a check mark if you want in the circle. If you mark something anywhere else, however, the ballot cannot be counted. Do not photograph your ballot. We've been seeing a lot of that going on. That is
No.
literally against the law. Do not do that. That's bad, 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 bad. And do not, if you're watching and are not necessarily fans of our show, do not bring fuck Carney flags within a certain distance of a polling station. Do not wear Pierre Poilièvre for PM t-shirts going into the polling station. These are things that you cannot do. Right?
Yeah, and you can get the
Yes.
candidate into a lot of trouble for that, as well as yourself.
Do
You
not do those
cannot do
things.
those
This is,
things.
again, it's like even the poll workers are not allowed to wear red and blue and green and orange and purple and whatnot.
Correct.
There's literally only yellow, brown, beige,
That's
and
right.
black and white left, right? So as to not influence you in any way. Yes,
You can
jeans.
wear jeans,
So, like,
but
let's calm down. There's no pencil gravitationally pulling. There's no person at the thing that's going to magically switch your ballot. Always make sure you put your own vote in the box. That's the rule, actually. That's the
yeah,
rule.
yeah. Nobody can touch it. They cannot touch that ballot. You have to insert it into the box in front
Yep.
of them so they can
They
see you
they can,
do it,
like, rip
but they
tear
can't
the
touch it.
strip off the thing of the ballot, but your ballot's always closed at that time, and for the provisional ballots, not the provisional, the special ballots that were they don't even do that, right? You take it, you write it, and you put it in the envelope yourself, and then they take it and you put it in another envelope and you sign something, right? So, this is not real. This is not
Well,
real, just so
I don't
I'm sure the
where there
listeners of
was
our
a
show
lineup.
are discerning and know this, but this is not real.
I don't know if you're aware, but there was a rally in the PN yesterday in the riding that Mark Carney's running in.
Mhm.
And of course, you had individuals out there with a
Yep.
bullhorn yelling at the people lined up to get in, saying some pretty disgusting things. I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to show it. You want to find it, go find it on your own. I'm not going to amplify that. But it's like this is a real problem.
Yeah.
These are people who have gone right down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole and believe some of the most bizarre. If you could have heard what they were shouting
Mm.
at the crowd,
Yeah.
like, oh, dude, you need psychological help.
Yeah. Listen, you have to understand that with this whole movement, and you could include the rebel stuff in there too,
Oh yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not about free speech,
No,
right? They keep on saying it's about free speech, right? It's like
which we don't have. We have
f-
freedom of expression.
yeah, freedom to disinform,
Yes,
I guess, is not free speech. Okay,
that's
number one,
correct.
and number two, all of the tactics that they use make it so that nobody else can speak.
Mm,
That is not free speech. We lost the scrums.
because of rebel.
Other journalists, legitimate outlets, lost the opportunity to ask a question on the first night of debate because they crowded the mics.
They flooded the zone with bullshit. That's what
But
they
what
did.
but what they did is that while all the other journalists were actually watching the debate to
Mhm.
cover it, they went into the room half an hour before and went to the front of the line and took up all the spaces. They know that there's 10 minutes. They took up all the spaces. They made sure nobody else could have a voice. They show up at campaign rallies and they bring these big noise things so they can talk over everybody so nobody can hear. It's not about free speech. It's about eliminating every other voice but their own. That is not the
Correct.
same thing. And defunding the CBC is right along in with that.
Which again, who started the
Yeah, yeah.
CBC? Prime Minister did that. Oh, he was a
Because remember,
conservative.
Poilièvre's full platform isn't only to defund the CBC, and he seems to not have any problem with government funds going to media because he actually campaigned on actually giving these funds to media, but to the other kind of media, the media
Yes.
that he likes, which is oddly enough the thing
Propaganda
that
spreading.
they have been accusing Trudeau of doing.
Yeah.
By funding the
It's okay when I do it.
CBC and by ensuring that the noted liberal, all the noted liberal rags from Prost Media got to survive because he bought that. I mean, if he bought the good press, he's still waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, because if we look at the newspapers who support the conservatives across the country, that would be almost all of them. And again, as I said recently during the election of the United States president, that when the Wall Street Journal decided not to endorse anybody, we know why that was. But I actually agree. I do not think that media conglomerates or media companies should ever endorse any candidate because it sways the election for a lot of people. I do not think if you work in media, you should be talking about who you're going to vote for or who you support. I've never suggested who I support. Have I? I've never told anybody who I voted for, and I never will. That's between me and myself and I. You want to tell who you vote for? Go ahead. Knock yourself out. You're free to do so. It's a free country. But anybody who represents themselves as a journalist or a media organization should not be endorsing anybody. And how many times have I said it on this show? I will never tell you who to vote for. I urge you to vote. I urge you to vote for the best candidate in your riding who will do the most for your community. And I would strongly recommend you don't vote conservative because they won't do anything for your community. But if you do, that's entirely up to you. That's as close as I get to endorsing anybody.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little different. I mean, I've definitely said on the show, hey, if you're in this riding and you've got this person, you have a very, very good constituent CMP here. You might want to vote for that person. So I have made specific recommendations from time to time. I'm not above that, but I agree with I think I agree with your point, Mr. Grizzly. Listen, historically all newspapers had a specific editorial bit and it was very clear and it was very known, and you went there and you went there and you read both if you wanted to know what both sides were, but if you just wanted confirmation, you did. So what we tried to do is to try to make it so that both viewpoints or all these viewpoints would be in the same paper at one point. We tried to have that so you didn't have to go to two different places, because you could have a good media that would present many viewpoints to you. And then we got into that this thing that we're doing now, right? We're instead of looking out the window to see if it's raining, just grabbing the mic and put it in somebody else's face and saying, the other guy said it's raining. What do you think about that? Right? So we kind of lost that. And now we're more in an on-demand world and people want their own things. And we're having all this networks, doing specifically for one group, which is fine if that's what we want to do. But then if we're going to do that, there has to be some minimum journalistic standards that we're all agreeing to follow. As in, you just can't make shit up and then report it as a fact. That would be a good one, right? It's like, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Let me go in front of a camera, in front of all this apparatus that makes me look like I'm official, and say what I just dreamed up, but write it and present it to you as if it was a fact. That's wish casting. That's very dangerous, and there's a lot of that going on at the moment. So we move from the debates, right? We lost the scrums. Jagmeet Singh, the NDP, did make the effort to put something together at a hotel place somewhere in Montreal and had a post scrum. They were the only party that did that, which I found a little surprising because I thought that they all would. So for strategic reasons, the other three did not. For the Liberals, one could assume it's because, well, we think we're in the lead. Why create more opportunities to ask questions that could be inconvenient, particularly given all of this crap that has just happened? Conservatives, one could say, maybe they feel the same thing, or maybe they feel, I know I didn't really do what I needed to do tonight. So there's no point in taking some additional questions, especially since I've been doing everything on my campaign to not take questions. It's like, whew, wow, they canceled the scrum. Great, 4 more questions I don't have to answer. Do. Right? And then, Jagmeet Singh clearly wanted the opportunity, and then Yves-François Blanchet didn't do it. Maybe, again, they're a smaller team, smaller budget, maybe didn't have the resources, maybe didn't think that they would get to the media coming to them, given that, well, all the other big parties would be attracting the Francophone media as well. And maybe decided it was not worth it. These are all some reasonable explanations, but we don't know. The parties weren't asked. They didn't say. When they next come out to address us, they are going to reveal, post-debate, what are their priorities and what are their personas for the campaign closing that they are going to present. So is Pierre going to continue to be this prime ministerial guy who perhaps showed a tear of sincere emotion, either because he really was sorry that he didn't get to meet everyone, or because he realized in the moment he hadn't done enough and his dream had died? And while it is kind of normal that someone would be a little misty-eyed after investing so much in a dream that they just know is not going to come true, whatever the reason for his misty eye, the question remained, would Pierre Poilièvre show up for the rest of the campaign as this prime ministerial guy with a sensitive side who is smiley and cheery and trying to show the nation that he can play nice with media? Or would he go back to the Pierre that we all know? Mr. Carney, how is he going to answer some questions, particularly with regard to everything that went on, given that they didn't have the Scrum Post debate? Should the commission be disbanded? What does he think about Rebel? Should they have had the right to be there? What are his takes on that?
All good questions.
Right? So these came out. Mr. Grizzly, if you have the first timestamp.
I do indeed. Just give me a minute. I'm having serious delays here for some reason, and I'm checking my network's fine, my computer's fine, so it's got to be the software and nothing else, and it's very frustrating. So I apologize as we try and get through this, but I'll do my best to bring you the best show we can, all things considered.
So we're going to do right now, we're going to show you Mark Carney, just about a minute or so, and then Pierre Poilièvre, also about a minute of each. And both of these will show what is their immediate post-debate and opening bid to close the campaign priority, and what personality they are going to bring with it to close this thing home and bring it home.
Catalyze private investment. Now, I know, I think you all feel, but I know from traveling across our great country that Canadians are ready to step up. And Canadians don't want to just resist. Canadians are determined to win. And our task over the next weeks, months, and years, big, and to act bigger. And that's what my government's platform, which we will unveil tomorrow, that's what my government's platform, our strategy, our plan will do. Because we are Canada. We are a free, sovereign, and independent and ambitious country. We have agency, we have power. We're masters in our own home. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Nous pouvons contrôler.
We are masters in our own home, and we can control our own economic destiny. Our choice is to fight.
All right. So, Mr. Carney, day after the debate, comes out in the morning and says, tomorrow, my platform will be coming out. Pierre.
That Conservatives will bring change. We will axe the Liberal food packaging tax to save families $400 on groceries and to save 60,000 Canadians their jobs. We will repeal the federal plastics ban, including the ban on plastic and cutlery.
Okay, Trump.
Because consumers and businesses should be free to choose what works best for them.
Fuck the environment.
We will eliminate labeling and packaging requirements that make that raise the cost of fresh produce and groceries by up to 34%, because families shouldn't have to pay more to eat healthy. We will protect restaurants, grocers, and low-income Canadians from costly, one-size-fits-all packaging rules that hit the people who can least afford it, causing them to pay the most. We will end the Liberal ban on convenience. We'll base policy on evidence and affordability, not on elite virtue signaling.
Oh, girl.
What did he eat for breakfast?
So, Mr.
They all want to go
Carney?
back to the 1950s, right? The time of the 1950s. In the Conservatives' case, they want the wife barefoot pregnant in the kitchen. They want people of color to know their place, and they don't want to pay the marginal tax rate of 95%. And oh, by the way, in the 1950s, we used paper straws and bread came in paper bags.
So, clearly this is more oil.
Yeah.
Because when you say plastics, you say oil. Right?
I do believe that the silly thing we're doing right now is putting paper bread ties on plastic bags of bread. That is stupid. That is virtue signaling. It really is.
Okay.
I mean, that's ridiculous,
Granted.
right? I mean,
Granted.
you know, they're like, when you buy your lettuce like this, well, you can go home and put it in your Tupperware lettuce crisper that my parents have had since before I was born and still use every day because it's Tupperware and that shit lasts forever. Right?
Right. So, Mr. Carney is talking about platforms, and Mr. Poilièvre is talking about plastics. And Mr. Carney is still presenting the respectful and poised persona, and Pierre is back to So, all right, since we're talking about priorities, Mr. Carney was asked a few questions following, because we mentioned he would be asked a certain thing, a couple of things, right?
Mhm.
So if we can have the first segment, Mr.
Yeah,
Risley,
sir.
if you have it.
We're there. We're there.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to go.
Yeah, I'm just doing a smooth transition.
Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet today called for... Hi, this is Catherine with the Canadian Press. Bloc leader Yves-François Blanchet today called for the abolition of the Debates Commission following several incidents that took place this week. I'm wondering if you think it's time to reform or dismantle the commission.
Well, look, I'll say a couple of things about the debates. I think it was probably, both the best and worst of times, if you will, for the debates. As a participant in the debate, and others will judge, you will judge, and Canadians, most importantly, will judge. I thought the way the debates were structured and moderated, and I pay tribute to Mr. Hua and Mr. Pekin. I thought they were well moderated and structured, and that there was an exchange of ideas. There's a lot more issues, and one would always wish that there were a lot more time to fully develop the ideas, but in the constraints of time and others, it was well structured. And so the debates themselves, I don't know, as I say, others will judge, I thought were good. There was obviously that was not the case, and you would know best, the media would know best how the media side was handled. And so there's definitely lessons that can be learned from that. I think there is value, though, in having an independent group that sets the terms of this. I would suggest that probably the best thing is a period of reflection, and then the Parliament, reflects and has some, can feedback or a process to feedback on how things can be improved. It was unfortunate that, I'll just state the obvious, it is absolutely right and necessary and appropriate. It's not after the debate to take your questions, and that couldn't happen last night, and that was. I regret that, and well, this is a substitute for it.
So, right, the commission. There should still be something, because here's the thing: where, for those who don't remember, what existed before is that media groups would get together. They get together with the political parties. They try to determine caucus, and there'd always be a party or so that was like, well, if they're coming, then I'm not coming, or if you talk about this, then and it always ended up to being this thing, and eventually end up getting some types of debates until Stephen Harper decided he was just not participating one year. Now everybody turns around and goes, yeah, but we got all these wonderful debates and we got so many more of them. Yeah, but we got that in an election campaign that started in December, right before. And it lasted a long time, a long campaign. So there was time for those 4 debates, right? So, but there was, in those 4 debates, there wasn't one that was a rendezvous for the entire nation that was carried from coast to coast to coast on a network. Some of them you had to go online to look at them. Some of them were broadcast, but only maybe not nationally, right? So that Mr. Carney sees the value of a body that can do that and that takes the political parties out of it. You may agree, not agree, but it's a position, it's cogent, right? You can make a case for it, right? And he answered the question. All right. So we go to the next question. He has been asked specifically about, he's asked about Pierre Poilièvre's dalliance into plastics for the day.
Today, Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre said that he will end the ban the Liberals enacted on plastic items and the plan to require more plastics to include recycled content. So I'm wondering if a Liberal government under your leadership will maintain those policies.
Well, I'm losing track of how many sort of American imports. It seems like some of the only imports that are going up from the U.S. are policies from south of the border. The restrictions that are in place all have broadly affordable options. So I don't see the need to follow the U.S. either in terms of the respect for rule of judgments of judges, U.S. firearm policy, or with respect to plastics. We may.
Oh, ouch!
Wow!
Wow! Ooh, brutal.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, no.
Damn.
Got to call it like it is, right? I mean,
Banker's got some moves. Just saying.
He's a smart man.
Yes.
He's a smart man.
Oh, yes. Now, the next one, which could be a tricky question about rebel-like organizations and media accreditations.
Oui,
Bonjour.
To the debate on the debates. Do you believe that organizations like Juno and True North and Rebel News are organizations that really include journalists?
C'est difficile.
Well, that's a tough question. That is one of the advantages of having an independent group or commission. Now, I know what happened this time. But for a politician, making judgments on organizations, I find that a bit worrisome.
I would prefer, in these circumstances, to have independent judges of the media and the appropriate media. I have many reservations about some of these organizations, but I don't want to be I think as a politician, making those determinations it makes me uncomfortable for me to be judging on media quality in that regard. I would rather err on having more robust questioning than the other side.
Je voudrais vous emmener sur l'entente sur les tiers pays.
Okay. So again, hearkening back to the debate moment when they were talking about the notwithstanding clause. And Mr. Carney said, well, I mean, we have to protect the charter from people, well, like us, politicians, who would like to
Yes.
politicize it in a certain way. So here again, it's in that same vein. It's like I have reservations about Rebel, but I would be uncomfortable being the one with the power to determine who should be there and who should not. There should really be somebody else who does that, who actually understands and
An
studies
arbitrator of some
media.
type
And,
that determines
right.
that.
Yeah. So again, we got the guy saying, notwithstanding clause, I'll do it. I'll use the charter to protect the charter in some weird Jedi mind trick way. And another person that keeps on saying, no, that's a power I do not want. That's a power I do not think I should have. One wants to become the first prime minister ever to use the notwithstanding clause to take away a right. And the other one is saying, those are powers I don't think that we should have. They are very different
The charter
people.
is to protect us from that, right?
Right?
Yeah.
They are both
It's night and
very
day.
different people. So anybody go like, they're just the same. No, we're dealing with two very, very different people. This is a basic political, philosophical point here. Fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then the next one.
Yeah, just bear with me a second here. Hopefully it's working. I know that
This
I'm
is
monitoring on a separate feed, and I see that there's problems, but there's nothing I can do about it. I apologize. It's the software.
A openness and breadth of our energy superpower policy. So I can go on, but colleague in local media ask the following question, I guess.
Hi, it's Ray Spiteri. I'm a reporter with the Niagara Falls Review.
Great.
Obviously, we're here. The United States is right across over
just
there. Your press conferences between the American and the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. There's a lot of people here that have family on both sides of the border, businesses that rely on trade between both sides of the border. Can you comment just to the local community about how they're feeling right now, and sort of if we're ever going to get back to a sense of normalcy?
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. I think there's several aspects of that. One is just this is a difficult time for Canadians, and I especially in border communities where the ties are even deeper. I mean, the ties Canada and the U.S. are very deep, but they're even deeper in this community, as you say, ties of blood and workplaces and others. This is going. The situation is very fluid. It will not fully go back to where it was. The U.S. has changed its priorities. This is not a ride about that. What going to get the best result to be strong? And the best way for us to be strong is to be strong at home. And so our focus is on building at home and rebuilding, or building, I would say is a better way to say it, building a new relationship, a new economic security relationship with the United States. It will be better than it is now, but it won't go back to what it was before.
all right. So Dad keeps it real.
Mhm.
He's not going to sugarcoat it. This a moment of just keeping it real, right? He could have sat there and said, no, we'll be fine and everything was going to be great. You just follow my plan and everything's, there'll be a chicken in every pot and you'll have a powerful paycheck. Or you can keep it real with people. So now we're going to compare and contrast Pierre Poilièvre, and I'm only going to show one answer because he did his event in Montreal, and most of the questions are in French, and they did not come with a simultaneous translation, and it would be too long for me to do back and forth. But he was asked right off the bat, should the debate commission be disbanded? His answer, I think we should focus on the concerns of the real people, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes into a bunch of other stuff. Asked again, point blank, should the debate commission be abolished? About the debate, the question is, should the Liberals be elected to a fourth mandate? Blah, 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 blah.
So he never answers the question.
So he's gone back
On
to
passe
the
à
old
la
camp.
dernière question.
Thank you.
I'm Mr. Poilièvre, Mackenzie Gray with Global News.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Looking for a yes or no answer from you on this.
Thank you very much.
If you are elected, do you still intend to fire the Bank of Canada governor?
Well, listen, my view is that when government...
Looking
That's
for
not
a
a
yes
yes
or no answer. Thank you. My view is
governments drive up inflation, the people who are responsible should be held accountable. So those people include Mark Carney, who was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau from 2020.
No.
He was the one who on June 3rd, 2021, said that inflation would be a, quote, good scenario, that it would be a sign of economic progress. And he advised Justin Trudeau to print more money, and that's what we got, the worst inflation in 40 years. I was the only one at that moment standing that there would be a
Only I can fix
I was
it.
the only one who saw
brutal
the truth.
This is mini Trump. Yeah.
So they kept printing money. There I was in the Finance Committee, again and again, warning that government money printing would flood our market with cheap cash, bid up goods, and cause inflation. And Mark Carney was going around saying inflation would be good and there should be even more money printing. Yesterday, I asked him why he advised Trudeau of that. Well, he tried to dodge responsibility. He pretended he wasn't Trudeau's economic advisor, even though the Liberal website today still says that Carney is the Trudeau economic advisor, with the same Liberal MPs, same Liberal ministers.
Trudeau is not in politics
That
anymore.
was another moment.
How can he advise somebody who's no longer working in that
that was
field?
another thing of that debate. Remember, Mr. Carney turned around and goes, listen, I know you can't get over Justin Trudeau or the carbon tax, but they're both gone, all right?
They're both gone. Yeah.
Same Liberal staffers and the same Liberal promises. Why would you get a different result? You know, as Albert Einstein said, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting of insanity. And on that note, Gerald Butts and Justin Trudeau's other economic advisors were actually at the debate site. So if you think there's going to be any change with the Liberals, you'd be wrong. What we need is a real change, and that's the choice in this election. After rising costs and rising costs and crime, are we going to allow the Liberals a fourth term, or is it time for a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, cap spending, unleash home building and resource development so our economy has strength for it?
Okay, so almost 3 minutes, and he never answered the bloody question, which was a yes or no question that he said, thank you for asking that, and never answered the freaking question.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Priorities and personas. Platforms. And actually answering your questions and saying that there's certain power I should probably not have as Prime Minister versus plastics, not answering the question he'd rather had been asked instead, and simply not being willing in any way, shape, or form to take direction or play by any rules whatsoever.
Only I can fix it.
Comes on the heels of last night's debate, where tensions became so heated due to the presence of the right-wing media outlet Rebel News. The original post-debate scrum was canceled. Poilièvre was asked whether the debate commission should be abolished. The Conservative leader was also asked whether he'd still fire the Bank of Canada governor, a promise that had been a staple of his speeches. Poilièvre didn't respond to those questions. When journalists shouted for him to clarify his position, his staff moved in to surround reporters and drown them out with clapping. On a final note, as you know, the Conservatives choose who gets the questions. CBC has not been allowed to ask a question.
So, and then when this stuff is open and there's questions he doesn't want to be asked, he has all his minions on staff come up and start clapping and making noise. So again, the voice is drowned out, and the only voice that can be heard. But it's about free speech, y'all. And remember, this was supposed to be the most transparent campaign ever.
Yeah.
Right up there with the Fair Elections Act.
I was going to say as transparent as aluminium, but they do have transparent aluminium today. It's a real thing, by the way. Yeah.
More fun with words.
I know it was science fiction in a Star Trek movie back in the 80s, but it's a real thing today. Transparent aluminium. Yes. So anyway, like the most transparent bullshit. 4 questions, no follow-ups. You pick who gets to ask the questions, and they are seldom, if ever, from a legacy or mainstream or large organization. They always happen to be from an organization that really favors you and your policies.
And if you don't like the question, you just answer the one you would like to have asked anyway.
I'd like a yes or no answer to this question, please. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate that. So are you going to do this? So anyway, Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney are evil minions who want to take over the planet. Excuse me? What? How? That's not an answer to the question. Literally, I'd love to see it. I think it was Linda M. who suggested all the journalists should just start chanting yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Like, combien?
Right.
Combien? Combien? Show me the page. What page? Tell me the page. Which page? I mean, seriously. This little puke needs to be put in his place.
Yep. So.
Something tells me the country's about to do it.
So that's what we got. That's 9 days, 10 days left around that time when that happened. That's what both of them thought that we as Canadians deserved. Now, Pierre was asked also several times when his platform is going to come out because the Liberals and the NDP both released their platforms on the same day. The Greens had released theirs on Thursday. And the best we got from Pierre was, it's coming soon.
Well, I remember watching Melissa Lantsman being asked by Vashi Kapelos what the platform is several months ago. When there's an election, we'll release the platform. The election is in 7 days.
In December 20. Yep, in
they
December
still
23,
have no platform.
2023. We showed you the clip too when it happened. She sat there arrogantly and smugly, contemptuous of all Canadians, saying, "You are not entitled to know." I mean, she didn't say these words, but this is what she was saying. "You are not entitled to know what it is that we plan to do for you. I mean, to you. Once we win, until we are in the election." So, and at this time, we were thinking the election was on October. So she was basically saying, so between December 2023 and October 2025, you're not fucking entitled to know what it is that we've got planned. So fuck off and stop asking. Well, so
basically
here we are.
Is what she said.
The election has started now. And we are 1 week from voting day. And we still, the best we have is, it's coming soon. This guy had 2.5 years, or if we talk in the way that Pierre Poilièvre says, after 3 years of Pierre Poilièvre,
yes,
there is still no platform. After 1 month and something of Mark Carney, we have one. Why is it that Mark Carney was able to do in about 42 days that which Pierre Poilièvre has not been able to do in 3 years?
Well, and let's take into account that every review I've seen of this platform, from economists to conservatives, have said this is pretty solid.
Yep.
People who would never vote Liberal in their lives have looked at this with an objective eye and has said it's a good platform. It's solid. I think, and I read something yesterday, and I think maybe it was you who posted it, sir, about a gentleman who said, I was a red Tory and I had no place, but now it looks like I may have a place with a Liberal Prime Minister who seems to be a red Tory. Now, red Tory, for those of you who do not know, is somebody who identified as a progressive conservative, heavy on the progressive side.
Right.
Red as in liberal red, Tory as in conservative. Right. They were called the Tories for decades. The Tory party doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't since 2021. Was it 21? Yeah, 21. No, sorry, 2001. Sorry. What am I saying? My goodness. Or 2003, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that when they merged and became the crap party?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Canadian Christian Reform, or Canadian Conservative Reform Alliance.
Yeah.
Well, you saw what I did there, a little Freudian. So Canadian Reform Alliance Party. The crap party.
Oh, man. Oh, jeez. All right. So, Pierre Poilièvre is not going to play ball. He's going to listen. He's leaning. The campaign has decided that for the last 9 days, they need to turn out the vote. He didn't do what was needed at the debates, despite everybody saying, oh, yeah, he did really well. And all that. Yes, he may have done well at tampering down the pit bull type thing. He may have had a moment of emotion. He may have been very good at looking into the camera and delivering his points and all that kind of stuff. But Jagmeet Singh made it very difficult for Pierre to get the clips that he wanted by interrupting all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he did.
He did not do anything to reach out to grab more people. That is for sure. And it was a red meat thing. So clearly he's going to do the next 9 days, trying to avoid the media as much as possible, clearly not taking questions, and just keep on throwing red meat, red meat, red meat, red meat, red meat to his base. Plastics, criminal Carney, corrupt Carney, whatever. This is what we're going to get, right? Doesn't care about crime, does it? And it's only going to be about crime. I mean, look at, he talked about the food packaging tax. He's at the point right now that he's inventing new taxes to axe.
Yes.
Because he's run out of steam and has got no ideas left.
Well, like Carney said during the debates, all you had was Justin Trudeau and the carbon tax, and they're both gone.
Exactly. So now he's creating new tax, the food packaging tax, the inflation tax, the this tax, the
inflation tax.
The tax. Yeah. Oh, you didn't hear about the inflation?
No,
tax?
I did hear about that. I'm just in my head. I'm like, I'm getting ready to do my taxes, and I don't see any line item for an inflation tax.
Nope. Nope. But that's what I mean. He's literally manufacturing new taxes that he can axe because the one he ran on doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know you're out of ideas when. It's really interesting that.
Well, clearly he's incapable of pivoting away from one thing to another. How is this man going to run the country? Like, seriously, he gets into a debate or a negotiating deal with another nation, and he's hell-bent on going down this pathway, and it's like, well, that pathway doesn't exist anymore. Well, we have to do this. No, you don't understand. You can't go there because it doesn't exist. We have to go in this direction. No, we're going in this direction. Well, you're on your own, you foolish man.
Yep. So, and Pierre's like, of course, talking about all this inflation and stuff. Somebody should inform him that all these taxes he intends to cut actually adds money to the economy and creates inflation. We want to know that. So, yeah. It's just not serious to end a campaign. Now, if we want to talk about somebody who is being serious, Mr. Carney did release his platform. And, well, let's take a look at what he had to say. Now, the first thing that Mr. Carney does is gives us a little bit of the lay of the land and tells us about the situation. And this is one of the things that I found really good about Mr. Carney's campaign. I think I've mentioned it before, but you're really going to see it in this case here. Is that Mr. Carney is very, very, very good at doing the education piece. It's very similar to what Chrétien Martin did at the time, where we had to make all those cuts to get, the dollar back in shape and all that kind of stuff. He's very, very good at doing the education piece. He tells us why, he tells us how, right? He doesn't treat us like we are stupid and that we are too dumb to be able to understand these concepts. Because he talks to us on equal. He brings his level of language down enough that he can speak to everyday people. He doesn't use, there's all this economic jargon that he could use, but he breaks it down to us. But he tells us what it is, why we need it, why we need to do it, how it works. He does the education piece. He brings us along. He just doesn't say, oh, well, you guys don't want to deal with that. Or, Canadians don't need to understand all that. Just trust me. I got this for you. Because he actually brings us along.
They do need to understand.
They do.
Yes.
So he's got to present the situation here, and then we'll go a little bit into the platform.
I don't know why it's the image.
In this crisis, we have to prepare for America's threats to our very sovereignty. They want our land, our resources, they want our water, they want our country. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. And you're right, that will never happen. Canada is not America, and it never will be. But we need to recognize that. We need a plan to deal with this new reality. Because when you're in a crisis, plan beats no plan. A plan provides direction in the fog of uncertainty. It provides purpose. It rallies the team. It drives action. And to succeed in a crisis, you have to act with overwhelming force. We need to overcome the natural anxieties that people feel. We need to break through the uncertainty which is freezing our businesses. We need to replace, more than replace, what the crisis is taking away from us. Look, it's said there are no atheists in foxholes. There should be no...
Yeah, that's a good point. And with I do have to roll.
All right.
I have to get going. It's past 8:30. I got to get Lola out and then go to my appointment. But thanks for coming out, folks. I do appreciate each and every one of you. And let's be civil to one another in the chat. Eh? Let's be civil to one another. Sometimes we can get a little bit heated. I'm guilty of it myself. Let's just try and be civil to one another. And I will see you all this evening at 9 p.m. on my ASMR, where I will talk to you about what my brain has been telling me lately. And until that time, take care, and I'll see you later.
All right. Thank you, friend.
If I can just find my camera to turn it off here. See ya.
All right. He's gone. Let's talk about him. No, I'm kidding. All right. Kids and Cubs. Hopefully, I will be able to continue on my own and making sure that we have everything placed the right way, because there's a few more moments there from Mr. Carney presenting his platform to all of us that I do want to show you. All right. So what we have going on next here, Kits and Cubs, is he's talking about the four main planks of his plan. He has it divided under particular themes of things that we need to do. And I will basically, his four themes are unite, secure, protect, and build. And he's got a little bit for each of them. So what we're going to start with is a little bit of the announcement. And then little bit by little bit, we're going to go through the four sections that he's actually talked about and see what he has to say about them a little bit. Now, this isn't going into all the specific elements of all the policy and all the plans. Right now, we're working on having a guest to come on who did a good read of the Liberal and the NDP plan so far, and was able to do a pretty fair analysis. So rather than me just reading what it is that they said to you, I've actually invited them on, and so that they can tell you themselves. So we'll do that in a show to come this week here, and hopefully the Conservative platform will be out before then too, so you can do all of them. And I will ask him to take a look at the Green one, which also came out before the weekend, before the debate actually on Thursday, to be able to do that. But we'll go here specifically to what Mr. Carney has to say about his own plan here. So I will, there we go. Make sure that we share that. Okay, that's good. Let's just flip the windows there. All right, and we will maximize this and put on the volume. And there we go. All right.
New form plan. Now, today, I'm proud to launch Canada Strong. Our plan to unite, to secure, to protect and build Canada. And This comprehensive plan is defined by 4 principles. And the first is to unite. Because in a time of crisis, in a time when President Trump is attacking our economy, he's trying to weaken us, there is nothing more important than unity.
All right. So, Mr. Carney says there's nothing more important than unity. So, let's move a little forward in time here and see how it is in his plan or platform that we are talking more about uniting. And here we go.
Being united means standing up for what brings us together, like CBC Radio Canada. And it means making it easier to buy Canadian and discovering everything that our great country has to offer. This is unity. Our second principle is secure. Because in a more dangerous and divided world, it's essential to secure our borders, to secure our sovereignty, and to secure our country. Notre priorité face à ces tarifs américains injustes, injustifiés et mal avisés est de répliquer avec force et détermination.
So he's basically saying here, his repeated statement about these tariffs and being just unjustified. The proper response is to act with strength and determination. So if we continue forward in time, because like unify, some of these are shorter and some of these are longer, right? So unite, as you can see, was short, and then he goes into secure, moves into French a little bit, and then continues on the secure theme. I can just go ahead with it because it's very similar what he says in English as he said in French.
Securing our economy against the threat of tariffs is only the most immediate priority. To secure our nation over the long term, we have to do much more. We need to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces. So we will boost our Made in Canada defense industry, including by joining Rearm Europe, to invest in transatlantic security with like-minded European partners. We will increase care for our veterans, the women and men who put their lives on the line to defend our values. Yeah. We will invest in our north because Canada is a proud Arctic nation, but one that faces new threats. And we'll build safe communities, not just by denouncing the alarming rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, but by making it illegal to willfully obstruct places of worship, schools, and community centers. We will treat sexual and intimate partner violence as the urgent crisis that it is by making murder motivated by hate, including femicide, a constructive first-degree offense. We will stop the flow of illegal American guns because you can't be tough on crime if you're not tough on guns. Il faut protéger ceux qui mettent de la nourriture sur nos tables à tous, nos producteurs agricoles. Il faut protéger la gestion de l'offre.
So in French, he says we have to protect those who produce our food, our agriculture workers, our farmers, and we must protect supply management.
Right, exactly. We will assert ourselves, Canada will assert ourselves as a world leader, uniting like-minded countries who share our values of international cooperation and the free and open exchange of goods and services and ideas. We will step into the void left by the United States, because if the United States doesn't want to lead, Canada will.
All right. So in this section, you can see that it's much more developed, right? There's a whole lot more stuff that we need to do to make sure that we are securing ourselves, because there's many fronts on which we have to do that. So he's talking a lot of that here. And yeah, exactly. Kit SRCX. Trump is trying to bankrupt Canada, so let's keep that in mind, right? That's the overall temperature of the water in which we're all bathing right now, right? So yeah, even though he might not be popping up as often as he has before to disrupt things, that is always, meanwhile, in the background, right? So let's not forget about that. All right, now he moves to his next one, Kits and Cubs, about protecting. And again, there's a lot of stuff to protect. So this one has a couple of minutes to it, but let's see what he has to say.
Our third principle is to protect. We all know Canada is not America. We never will be. We are our own country. We have our own unique identity, history, culture, and way of life. And our government will always stand up for what makes Canada, Canada. That starts with protecting healthcare. Yeah. You know, in America, healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right. And we will protect that right while modernizing the system, recruiting more doctors and nurses, and expanding coverage. You know what? Another part of our identity in Canada is nature. Nature is in our nature, and we will protect that too. Le Canada est un pays où on respecte et on célèbre nos langues officielles et les langues autochtones.
Canada is a country where we celebrate and promote official languages and indigenous languages.
Un pays qui porte la langue française au cœur de son identité.
A country that carries the French language at the heart of its identity.
Qui l'a fait rayonner et qui est toujours prêt à la défendre.
A country that makes the French language, rayonner is a French word for often used when we're speaking about outreach, so to spread it, right? So yes.
You know, it's troubling that in America and elsewhere around the world, fundamental rights and freedoms are being rolled back. We will never go down that path here. We will protect a woman's right to choose what she does with her own body. Abortion is a right. There can be no debate about abortion rights in Canada, non-negotiable. Now, we will protect the freedom and equality that every Canadian is guaranteed, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender. You know, this came up, these sort of fundamental freedoms came up in the debate. We'll protect our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I said in the debate that that charter exists to protect Canadians from politicians. I'm a politician. It protects from politicians who may use their powers to override fundamental rights. We can't go down that slippery slope. Your fundamental rights and liberties shouldn't be subject to the whims of the government of the day. They should be eternal in Canada. We will also protect the progress we've made on reconciliation, but forge ahead and work to build stronger, healthier Indigenous communities across this country.
All right, kits and cubs. So again, lots of different elements here of all the things wanting to protect. Again, if people were wondering about things like same-sex marriage, that type of stuff, because again, it has been stated that he is rather devout, does go to church and all that kind of stuff. But he had made clear when asked about that in a previous question a couple of weeks ago that his religion does not interfere in any way with this particular duty. He's able to keep them separate. So again, this is a more full-throated, outright statement that those who might have had such concerns need not worry about that. And when you add that to the previous answers we showed about his feeling that there are certain powers that a prime minister should not have, all of this does fit together in a coherent narrative for him. There's no inconsistencies across positions from day to day here, depending on what subject he's talking about. So, yeah, this is a positive here on this instance. All right, and now the fourth element of the campaign, or of his platform here, his fourth principle is to build. So let's see what he has to say about that.
Now, the fourth principle of our plan is build. We used to build things in this country. It's time to build again, big time. It's time. It's time to build a Canada you can afford, with the middle class tax cut and the elimination, which we've already done, of the divisive consumer carbon tax. I mean, here at Durham, surrounded by young people, we know that it's time to build housing. It's time to build twice as many homes every year. And we will do it in a way that builds an entirely new housing industry, an entirely new industry with the most ambitious plan in Canada since the Second World War. On va bâtir un système d'immigration en lequel tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes peuvent avoir confiance. Bâtir des centaines de milliers de bonnes carrières dans les métiers spécialisés. This is a great time to go into the trades. We are going to build hundreds of thousands, not of jobs, but of careers in the specialized trades. On va bâtir un Canada qui est une superpuissance des énergies conventionnelles et des énergies vertes. Bâtir une stratégie industrielle qui nous permette d'être compétitifs tout en combattant les changements climatiques. Ouais. You know, it's time to build new trade and energy corridors working in partnership with the provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples. Yes. And that's what we agreed. That's what we agreed to do in my first week as Prime Minister with all the First Ministers. It's time to build a future-focused, tech-enabled, clean economy that will be the strongest in the G7. It's time to build an economy that works for everyone. It is time to build Canada strong. Canada Fort est un plan avec lequel on va se tenir debout pour le Canada et face au président Trump.
Canada Strong is a plan by which we are going to stand up for Canada and stand up to President Trump.
Un plan qui va rassembler les Canadiens et Canadiennes au lieu de les diviser.
A plan that will unite Canadians rather than divide them.
Un plan qui va non seulement créer des bons emplois, mais de bonnes carrières.
A plan that will not only create good jobs, but good careers.
Un plan qui va nous permettre de surmonter cette crise et d'en ressortir plus fort.
A plan that will help us overcome this crisis and emerge from it even stronger.
C'est un plan qui propose une toute nouvelle approche en matière de fiscalité.
It's a plan that presents an entire new approach to fiscal management.
Une approche qui nous permettra de dépenser moins pour que les Canadiens et Canadiennes puissent investir plus.
A plan that will allow us to spend less so that we may invest more.
C'est important ça.
That's important.
Une approche qui entraînera une discipline fiscale.
An approach that will bring about fiscal discipline.
Et qui sera entièrement concentrée sur la croissance économique.
And which will be solely focused on economic growth.
La création de bons emplois.
Creation of good new
Et
jobs.
la création de richesses pour l'ensemble du Canada.
And the creation of wealth for the whole of Canada.
Our plan. Our plan gets government spending under control because the government has been spending too much and Canada has been investing too little. Let me draw that out. Day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year for years. That's more than twice the rate of growth of our economy. We're going to bring that level of spending growth down from 9% to 2%. And we will do it in a way. We will not cut any transfers to provinces, to territories, or individuals. We will protect all of those. But we will balance our operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, by eliminating duplication, and by deploying technology. You know, but it's not enough just to do that. Because in the biggest crisis in our lifetimes, I know that when you're in a crisis, you have to act with purpose and with force. Your government needs to step in. In the Bank of Canada's worst-case economic scenario on the Trump trade war, which was released a couple days ago, they estimate that a long-lasting global trade war causes $125 billion in damage to the Canadian economy. That is an enormous number. But it's small compared to what we can give ourselves back. That's why what we're going to do is to invest more to build things, to make capital investments that will create a massive return for all Canadians. Two-thirds of all new spending in our plan will go to capital investments that catalyze the building of affordable homes, that provide equipment for our Canadian Armed Forces to secure this country, that build clean and conventional energy, that create nation-building infrastructure like ports, new roads, railways that connect us with reliable trading partners.
So here at Kids and Cubs, I just want to intervene for a little bit. You see how he's doing the education piece, right? I hope you're seeing it, right? Lays out the situation first, tells us what the 4 principles of the plan are, why these principles are important, what sort of falls under them, and then explains on the fiscal management part what it is that he's going to do, how it is that he's going to be able to afford that, and what is a difference here in this case between spending and an investment? Like, for real, from a banker's perspective, what's the difference between spending and investing? Because they're both outlays of capital, right? But they have two different purposes specifically, and they have two different rates of return, right? Operational spending, capital spending. It's very important to note the difference. But you will see how through this entire moment here that I've been doing, he's been talking about build and then going into how he's going to do it. Again, he's taking time. He's taking like 4 or 5 minutes to really explain to us how it works and how it happens. Not talking down to us, talking at our level, not at the super high finance level that he's using in the boardrooms, but not talking down and not assuming that this is something that we are not able to understand. He has confidence in us that we can get this. Let's continue.
And crucially, most of the remaining spending is on our middle class tax cut. So we're cutting taxes today for affordability, and we're investing in our future. These are smart investments. And we're designing our investments so that they will catalyze $4 to $5 more in investment from the private sector for every dollar that the government puts in. So, as an example, by investing $1.5 billion to cut development charges and red tape for new homes, to cut those charges in half, we'll drive over $8 billion in private housing investment, more than 5 times what we're spending. In total, our plan over the next 5 years will create $500 billion in economic value for Canadians. And that is on top of the $200 billion in total investment that our existing investment tax credits in clean energy, clean hydrogen, clean technology, electric vehicle manufacturing, and carbon capture will create on their own. And that is before the additional $200 billion that we can give ourselves as Canadians if we complete this job of building one Canadian economy instead of 13. So, this is what it means to be Canada strong. This is what it means to be Canada strong. What President Trump threatens us is to take away $125 billion. What we can create is $900 billion by ourselves. That is $20,000 on net for every single Canadian in 5 years. And that's what it means when we say we can do more for ourselves than any foreign government can ever take away. That's what it means. That's what it means. That's what it means to have a government that spends less so that Canadians can invest more. That's what it means. That's what it means to act with the urgency that this crisis requires, to match the scale of the crisis with the scale of ambition in this great country.
So again, kits and cubs, after that entire education piece where he brings us along, tells us the difference between operational spending and capital spending, and how our operational spending has gone up 9 times, which is way more than what it is, faster than the economy's growing, and all this kind of stuff, ends it with, again, telling us that he believes that this is something that we are able to achieve, tries to unite us around sort of a projet de société, or societal project to move forward. And it's ambitious, right? We're not only just trying to defend ourselves from stuff, we're trying to lay the groundwork for us to then fly off of this platform and fly higher than we have before. And you will notice that the two ministers he has behind him are Anita Anand and François-Philippe Champagne, right? Both of them have had very good portfolios with having to do with government contracting and all that kind of stuff, right? Anita Anand was there for procurement. Like I said, she's the president of the Treasury Board. We have Mr. François-Philippe Champagne, who's been at, innovation and international trade and all that kind of stuff. So they know what they're talking about. And when Monsieur Carney also talks about, when he's talking in his protect section about defense, if you saw Anita Anand nodding, let's remember also that Anita Anand has been the Minister of Defense as well in that over the past 10 years at some point. So again, he's got ministers behind him who actually know about this subject matter and are seeming to enthusiastically agree with the new direction, right? I mean, Anita Anand was going to leave politics and came back. So there's something about this new vision or this new approach that she truly does believe in. And she is, I think, like in the government efficiencies and that type of stuff, that is her whole area of particular expertise. If I'm not mistaken, but she has a particular expertise in these types of subjects that would actually help bring this type of change about. So she's not only a skilled politician and someone who's been very accomplished and very respected, but she actually has the specific knowledge in order to be able to do this very specific type of work. So you probably couldn't get a better asset in this case. They're going to work very, very well together, I would assume here. All right. So going on here, he's going to take a moment after doing the education piece to make a little bit of a contrast with what the offer is from the conservative side of the ledger. So I'm going to bring you to this timestamp here. And let us see what it is that he has to say about this.
Phil. You know, this plan meets the moment with overwhelming force. And while we're putting forth the most ambitious economic plan in decades to do more than just get our economy back on track, but to build the strongest economy in the G7, Pierre Poilièvre's mind is focused elsewhere. His priority for Canadians is to bring back plastic straws. Plastic straws. Thank God. That'll show Trump. That'll show the Americans. We got our straws, yeah. And at least that's his priority when he's not proposing to burn everything down, everything that matters to Canadian under the pretense of getting our house in order. To cut our public services that support Canadians. To get rid of the Canadian child benefit and $10 a day childcare. $10 a day childcare that saves a family here in Whitby $10,000 a year. Get rid of it. Get rid of it to pay a tax. So that's not our plan. He wants to get rid of dental care that is now available to more than 8 million Canadians. Dental care that saves the average person $870 for a trip. He wants to get rid of pharmacare that will provide free contraceptives and diabetes medication to Canadians. He wants to end our international partnerships, cutting aid to those most in need, including to Ukraine and in the Middle East. He wants to close our most important, our most prized cultural institutions, like CBC, Radio-Canada. This at a time in the face of President Trump's threats against our sovereignty. That's not leadership. That's ideology. And it's the last thing we need at this pivotal time. You know, throughout our history, there have been big moments where Canada and Canadians have chosen to step up, to assert ourselves as a free, sovereign, and ambitious nation. Et maintenant, nous sommes à un moment charnière.
And now we are at a critical turning point.
Il nous faut réinventer notre économie.
We must reinvent our economy.
Il nous faut accomplir des choses qui, auparavant, auraient semblé impossibles.
We need to accomplish things that beforehand would have seemed impossible.
À un rythme sans précédent.
At a rhythm
Nous
never
devons
before seen.
assurer la réussite du Canada dans un monde qui a été profondément transformé.
We must assure the future of Canada in a world that has been drastically altered.
Les défis qui nous attendent sont intimidants.
The challenges that await us are, and I was not able to understand the word, unfortunately.
Et c'est normal. Les grands changements, comme ceux que nous visons, sont toujours déconcernants.
Big changes are always concerning.
Je ne veux pas vous vendre de rêves. Nous avons beaucoup de chemin à faire.
I don't want to sugarcoat it. We have a lot of work to do.
Mais j'ai confiance.
But I have confidence.
J'ai confiance en vous.
I have confidence in you.
I have every confidence in Canadians because I understand what President Trump does not. Canada is not just geography. It's not just resources. It's not just a wealthy, vast country stretching from east to west and to the far north. Canada is our history. It's Vimy Ridge, it's Juno Beach, it's Gander, it's peacekeeping. Canada is deeply held values. It's universal public health care. It's an unwavering belief in human rights and in the rights of First Nations, of Inuit and the Métis. Canada is both French and English people living together and much more. It's a free and diverse community. It's an innovative, pioneering, kind and caring society. It's more than a nation. We're a confederation, a sacred set of ideals built on practical foundations. It's uniquely Canadian, ideals and pragmatism. We know we're not perfect, but we always strive to be good. Yeah. We don't do things because they're easy, but because they are right. We believe as a country in action, not anger, in solutions, not slogans, and in determination, not division. Yeah. Our strength as a country lies in our resolve to work together instead of leaving everyone to fend for themselves. Our plan, Canada Strong, has been built on these foundations. Nous allons unir notre pays autour de notre identité, notre histoire et nos valeurs distinctes.
We will unite our country around our identity, values, and distinct history.
Nous allons renforcer notre économie, notre souveraineté, notre place de leader dans un monde nouveau.
We will strengthen our sovereignty and our place in the world as a leader in a new world.
Nous allons protéger nos travailleurs, nos entreprises, notre façon d'être.
We will protect our workers, our industries, and our way of being.
Nous allons bâtir un Canada où tous peuvent réussir.
We will build a Canada where all can have success.
Où tous peuvent subvenir à leurs besoins.
Where everyone can meet their needs.
Canada is the best country in the world, but can be even better. With our plan, we will build Canada strong, Canada free, Canada forever independent of the United States, Canada worthy of its people. Thank you very much. Merci.
So clearly, lots of enthusiasm there from the crowd and the people that have gathered. A full laying out of the platform without going into specifically like every single little program and that type of stuff, but the broad outlines, the four major principles, why it is that we're doing it, how we can do the economic piece, specifically why it is important to distinguish between capital costs and operational costs or operating costs. A little bit of um, also I would put it, inspiration, talking about how the fact that, the United States is trying to take $125 billion away from us in tariffs, the ones that we know of at the moment. But with this type of plan, we can generate about $900 billion worth of wealth, which is about $20,000 for every man, woman, and child in Canada at the moment. He's pretty confident that that can be achieved. So we get that. We get a little bit of patriotism, a little rah-rah, and then, of course, that closing here. And you will notice that in some of these sections here that we are talking about, a banker here, right? But who's definitely he's not meeting the stereotypical view that we have as a banker, right? Cold, heartless, not able to speak about anything else than money, not able to relate to a common person because, they just earn a whole other stratosphere, right? We have said we seem to have a real person here, despite all of his success and all of his rubbing shoulders in very elite circles. We seem to still have a very real person that's someone grounded here and is not afraid to bring people along with him, right? Not just discount them. So, very good laying out of the broad lines of the platform here. He is asked in French. First question. He said, "This is the first time you're making a difference. You're making a distinction. This isn't, the first time that you're making a distinction between operational and capital budgets. But according to your platform, Canada will still be running $60 billion in deficits. Are you still as spendthrift as Mr. Trudeau?" And of course, again, he goes. He does more of the education piece in this answer, which is very good. And then asked afterwards, when he says, those savings, that about $28 billion of savings that you say that you are going to get within the federal public service, a lot of people have promised that, is this not just magical thinking? And again, Fields an answer to that, in the same sort of Carney style way that he usually does. Those are not the big questions. Even though he's asked directly about his policy, these are not necessarily the big questions that follow from what it is, don't want to say the big questions that follow, but those are standard boilerplate. They're not necessarily the more interesting questions that followed the scrum. So that followed the announcement. So I'm not going to bring you those two. If you want to check those out, please do check out the clip. It's called "Mark Carney Unveils Liberal Party's Costed Election Platform," April 19th, 2025, on the CPAC feed on YouTube. You'll be able to find that. The Q&A starts just around the minute 38 to give you the timestamp to go there. So if you want the answer to those two questions, you can find that there. But when we get to this part here, we're starting to get into something that might be a little more interesting. So here we go. I will put this up for you, and let's see what we have here. Kids incomes. Just going to make sure that the screen's all right. There we go.
Briefly in English, the difference, big difference. What we're quote spending is, and I'm using that word, is investment spend. So if you look at the overall mild deficit in a few years out, it's all for investment. It is all investment that catalyzes private investment. And then a big element of the prudence that's in this, and that certainly hasn't been the case, that hasn't been the case for governments in Canada for decades, to be absolutely clear. It's not just the past government, but for decades. What we're not doing, last point, is to give ourselves any credit for that in our numbers. These are very prudent numbers. So if we're causing $500 billion of investment, which is an enormous number over the next 5 years, growth is going to be even higher. But we're not giving ourselves credit for that because that's the prudent way to do it. Thank you.
All right. So the reason why I wanted to bring you the end of this question is because people are, sorry, I have to cough. Pardon me. Sorry. Thank you for your indulgence on that one. He was being asked, right, about being able to make all of this work together. So there were elements in that answer that he was giving that were showing that sorry, when I coughed, I kind of lost the train of thought of what it is that he had said in that answer. So unfortunately, I do have to go back a little bit and hope that the closed caption will be able to give me a little bit. I'm so sorry, kids and cubs. I lost my train of thought, making sure that I found the mute button, the cough button, so that I wouldn't shock your ears with what it is, the noise I was about to make here. So what he's talking about here specifically, right, when he's making the difference between capital and operational spending, they're wondering why it is that he hasn't, for example, included counter tariff revenue for beyond year one in his budget. And he's trying to make the point here that you really shouldn't rely on that money, because then that becomes a dangerous precedent, right? You start to rely on counter tariff funding to fund critical programs, and then there comes a time where you can't apply that counter tariff anymore, and then you're screwed because that money just disappears. So he really wants to make sure that he's not accounting for that type of money, and then vice versa. He's also not accounting for the future. He's not assuming that the growth will happen in his financial predictions. So he's pretty confident that his plan will do that, but he won't turn around and say, well, after year one, we will have grown this much. In year two, we have grown this much. In year three. And he's not counting it in as he's not counting it as money that will for sure be coming in, which is a very conservative way to do accounting. So he's saying, right now, I'm presenting data here that's showing yes, there will be a $60 billion deficit at the end of those 5 years. But, right, if we are not making these core investments out of counter tariff money so that we know that the money is there and the investments will be made, and then these catalyzing dollars do have the multiplier effect, the 4 or 5 times multiplier effect, then there will be growth that will reflect. And therefore, that $60 billion number might change. But we are not assuming that. We're not counting the chickens before they're hatched. So being very, very prudent fiscally with regards to that, which in these times is probably a good idea, given that a curveball at any time from the United States can just upend whatever budget or fiscal plan that you have right at that moment, right? So being more cautious with regard to counting that money as being a sure thing that we will be getting, and in what quantities, when we really can't know, is the safer and smarter way to go in this. All right, now we get to a journalist named Shannon Proudfoot, who I've recently discovered. Didn't know much about her until recently, and I came across an article, opinion piece that she wrote about what was going on in Alberta with Danielle Smith. And it's almost like a Danielle Smith knows we can see her, right? type thing, doing the things that she's doing. So has a little bit of cheekiness, which we definitely approve of here at the Beaver Lodge, but very good writer and a very good argument that she made. And I want you in particular to listen to her questions, because asking a good question also matters when you're a journalist. And earlier I said that he answered 2 questions, right? Like you said, it looks like this plan is going to reach a $60 billion surplus. Aren't you just as spendthrift as Trudeau? A lot of people said that we can realize cost savings, efficiencies, and whatnot, but it never happens. Isn't that just fantasy thinking, right? So you got those types of questions, right? Those were asked. Take a look, take a listen to this type of question. And then it will give you an idea to what it is we mean when I'm talking about quality journalism.
Hi, Mr. Carney. Shannon.
Sorry, the volume was off here. So
with the Globe and Mail. The idea of diversifying international trade and cutting back on interprovincial trade barriers is central to this platform. But that's something Canada's been talking about forever. It's sort of like that 10 pounds we always just mean to lose. So I understand the why here is driven by the U.S. trade threats. But what's the how? How is this actually going to happen this time, and is that realistic?
Okay, so a couple of things. Again, the core of this platform is investing here at home, and it's going to build out. Okay, just to be clear. The icing on the cake, and it's more than icing on the cake, and I guess we won't lose the 10 pounds if we have icing on the cake, but the icing and ice cream on the cake is exactly what you just said, Shannon, which is to have one Canadian economy and to diversify. So how are we going to change that? And the start of the answer has already started. We got an agreement, my first week as Prime Minister, to have one Canadian economy, and one of the ways to do that is to drop a series of qualification and other barriers that the various provinces have. Now, since then, Nova Scotia has made that more formal. Ontario, literally in the last 2-3 days, announced that they would do. This is all consistent with that agreement. Other provinces are coming in, and the federal government, my government, has committed that we will legislate by Canada Day the removal of all federal restrictions. So that's very tangible. And part of what, if I may, the media and folks at home can watch it, is to hold us all to account to this. Canadians want this. This is one of the things that's really impressed me across country. Canadians want one Canadian economy. They don't understand why we don't have it, and the crisis shows us that that alone can give back. Last point, I'll try and be more quick, which is around international diversification. One of the things, again, in the first few weeks as Prime Minister, yes, I went to Europe. Yes, we've been talking to Europe. We are already striking a defense cooperation arrangement with Europe, part of which means, big part of it, which means investment here in Canada as part of that procurement. So that diversifies our security relationship, but it also diversifies our trade. So we are going to be laser focused on both of those and delivering on those.
My second question, the middle class tax cut, as you bill it, has a pretty hefty price tag for what is arguably a fairly marginal gain for individual families. I understand the political and, let's say, social emotional impetus to do that in a time when people are feeling squeezed from multiple directions. But as you know, budgeting is about making choices and setting priorities. So why was that the best use of that large chunk of money?
Yeah, look, it's a family of two, it's $825 a year. It's a material, it's a material amount of money. The change in grocery costs over the course of the last year would be around that amount of money. So it's a serious amount of money. And what we're looking to do with that is to immediately get more money in people's pockets for reasons of affordability while we're building up the economy. Because ultimately, how do you solve the affordability issue? We got to build millions of homes. We got to have more high-paying jobs. Yes, we need competition. Yes, we need to strip out unnecessary costs. But in the end, it's about that growth that most of this platform is delivering. But people need help now. So cutting the carbon tax, cutting the middle class tax cut delivers savings to them now, as do, and this is something the Conservatives either don't get, but they certainly refuse to talk about, is they ignore that childcare literally saves people $10,000 a year in this province. They ignore that dental care saves 8 million Canadians, $800. They ignore that, and they would get rid of all that. So then all of that comes together because we are very focused on the impacts on Canadians, on people today, while we're building for tomorrow. Madame.
All right, and those were the ones I wanted to bring you in this one. So again, we're dealing with a banker with a heart here. And you'll notice those two questions, right? The first question, yes, there's like that little thing that, oh, everybody says we're going to do that, but we're not. But you say that we can. How are you going to get there? Not, isn't this just fantasy thinking? Because the second question, you're making a tax cut. There's so many other things we can spend that money on, right? Was that really the best thing to do with that money? These are solid, good questions. And we got more insight into his thinking and why he does these things and why he's making these decisions. These are questions that actually get you more information rather than, well, aren't you just as friend for this Trudeau? Because to that, you could just turn around and say, no, obviously not. Next question. Right? How was there not, did you consider that there were maybe better choices for this money? And, if so, what could they have been? Right? These are better questions. So the quality of the question matters. Knowing the subject matter well enough, knowing the person to whom you're asking the question well enough to be able to devise that type of question and ask it point blank. These things matter. These things matter a lot. So said I'm not fully aware of just the extent of Shannon Proudfoot's prowess in writing, but based on that one article I did see and those two questions, she is someone whose writing I am definitely going to be seeking out more because it seems to be based on actual things, and not just opinions or things that she feels. But she seems to study her subjects enough to be able to ask these types of questions that get us much more meat on the bone when we get an answer. So yeah, some pretty good stuff there, kids and cubs. All right, I am looking at the time, and it might be time to actually, make sure that we go our own ways for the day. Now, the one thing I did want to focus on before we did go is because in that last question that Shannon Proudfoot did ask, she was asking about credit ratings because the government of Quebec's credit rating had been lowered over the past few days. On April 16th, CTV reports American credit agency S&P, let me start again. American credit rating agency S&P Global has downgraded Quebec's credit rating from AA- to A+, with a stable outlook due to several factors, including, quote, persistent operating deficits. So that was the impetus for the question, because we're saying that with Mr. Carney, after 4 years, without factoring in any potential growth that we may have, we'll still be running $60 billion deficits 4 years from now. So if that happened to Quebec, wouldn't that happen to Canada as a whole as well? And then so you got his answer. But with regard to Quebec, the article continues, a confluence of factors, including slowing population growth, higher remuneration spending, and lower revenues, were set to weaken the province of Quebec's fiscal standing in the next 3 years, with persistent operating deficits and large after-capital deficits, even before heightened economic uncertainty related to tariffs, the firm announced on Wednesday. The lower rating means the firm feels that the Quebec government will be able to meet its financial commitments to its creditors, but with a slightly higher risk. S&P said it doesn't expect measures announced in the Quebec 2025-2026 budget on March 25 to have a meaningful impact on restoring the fiscal balance over the next 2 years, adding that it predicts only modest improvement of the books over the next several years, which could be complicated by the 2026 provincial election. Last month's provincial budget included a $13.6 billion deficit, one of the largest in Quebec's history. Quote, Quebec's fiscal position was already on weaker footing before the U.S. tariff announcements. The province has had to contend with a higher operating cost base from wage settlements, in addition to slower economic growth and lower revenue receipts because of changes to federal immigration targets, the S&P said in its rationale for the lower rating. Recent uncertainty around trade will put further pressure on the province's operating performance. We now project operating deficits to persist longer than previously expected. The credit rating firm forecasts in a downside scenario, lowering the rating once more over the next 2 years if economic growth in Quebec continues to slow. On the other hand, although unlikely, it could raise the rating over the next 2 years if there is a significant improvement in the province's finances with operating surpluses and a slower debt growth. Opposition parties were quick to pounce on the Coalition Avenir Québec government for the lower rating. Frédéric Beauchemin, the Quebec Liberal Party's finance critic, called the lowered credit rating, quote, terrible news for our finances. We're going to have to pay more to finance the record CAQ deficits. The CAQ is driving us into a wall. If the CAQ doesn't correct its course, another downgrade is likely within the next 24 months, he wrote in a post on X. Parti québécois MNA Catherine Gentilcore said the CAQ's fiscal choices are going to cost Quebecers for generations. Quote, not to mention the impact on our borrowing rates and therefore on our ability to stimulate the Quebec economy, which has been slowing down for several months. This is the consequence of 8 years of improvised and irresponsible CAQ governance, which is undermining our financial future for electoral purposes. So, hence the question here. You have to remember that credit rating agencies don't only look at the money at the top line, what the debt number is, right? They do look at what the debt is being acquired for, what are the purposes of it. So that stuff really matters. And we have to make a difference because you're going to see a lot of this online, right? Trying to lead people down rabbit holes and that type of stuff to believe things that are not okay. So a lot of people are saying right off the bat, oh yeah, this is going to just drive us into the poorhouse, and our credit rating is going to just evaporate. First of all, Max Fawcett, right, journalist for whom we have a great respect, who's at Canada's National Observer, says Carney's costed platform amounts to deficit to GDP ratio of 1.96% in the first year, falling to 1.36% in 2028 to 2029. The progressive conservative governments of Brian Mulroney and Joe Clark never ever came close to a level that low. All right? Never came close to a level that low. And since I have the opportunity here, I think I will be able to show you the visual here, kits and cubs, of the graph that he has shown. So there you go, kits and cubs. Again, you can see how much more, like clearly, how much more red there is over here. This is this line right here is 1985-86 versus what's going on here in terms of the budget forecast and long-term projections. So we are far, far, far off from what conservatives would like to brand as reckless spending that doesn't benefit the nation, or that will send us into the poorhouse, or that type of stuff. All of that type of talk is pretty exaggerated and is to be taken with a grain of salt. Now, other things that you will have here is Josh Morando, who is the guest that we are trying to get, says, you can disagree on priorities, but claiming the Carney plan risks Canada's AAA rating is just bad faith analysis. Claiming this will lead to a credit downgrade ignores how ratings actually work. S&P and Fitch assess fiscal trajectory, not just headline spending. Long-term growth, debt to GDP stability, and institutional strength are exactly what protect our AAA rating. Carney's platform builds all three. So that assessment, again, kits and cubs, is from a gentleman who's named Josh Morando. And just to give you a little bit of information about him. Oh, is that going to work for me today? No, it isn't, unfortunately. Darn, I screwed myself trying to bring you more information. There we go. He is a graduate of the Monk School of Public Policy and McMaster University, Policy and Government Relations consultant with Macmillan Vantage. So somebody who who does know what they're talking about a little bit in this perspective. So hopefully we'll be able to have him on the show sometime this week and bring more information and details about that kind of stuff. But so there's more that goes into just, oh my God, we're spending, there'll be more deficits. Our credit rating is going to go down. No, because what you spend on really, really, really does matter. And there's this wonderful graph right now out there showing what it is that we are looking at doing differently here when it comes to spending. And I want you to take a look at it here, kids. So this is what we're doing right now, 2021, when we're looking at liberal capital spending versus operational spending. Now, this is something I believe should have been done a long time ago when we're coming to doing budgets. But if we're looking here, the capital spending was 32.4% and our operational spending was 65.1%. 2025, what Mr. Carney is proposing is that the operational spending goes to 33% and the capital spending goes to 64.2%. So we're spending a lot more on things like high-speed rail and ports, pipelines, green energy installations, research and development, a whole bunch of stuff like that that will go into ensuring that we can actually build projects that will create jobs here, that will create industries here, that will open up new markets, that will allow us to take on international contracts, all that type of stuff. So give us ourselves the capacity to do that rather than just pulling it out of the ground and then shipping it to somewhere else, right? Or always just relying on the Americans as being the partner or our go-to partner because it's just easier. And admittedly, it is easier and there is some convenience that comes with doing that, no doubt. But again, we're just not living in that world anymore. So we cannot rely on that. So that is a very important thing to remember when we're talking about all of this. The other thing to remember, kids and cubs, as I was mentioning before, the types of spending that we are doing also matters a great, great deal when we are talking about what our plans are. And in this case, right, we want to make the difference between, for example, if we're going to bring it down to a level that we can understand. Now, I want to do this saying specifically, remember, a government is not a household, right? When everybody compares things to a household, right? There's limits to that. But if we are talking about this, here's an example. And this comes from Thomas Watson, who's an insurance broker. If I spend $100 on food, that's okay. If I take out of a loan $100 to buy food, that's debt. If I take out of a loan $100 so I could set myself up to grow more than $100 of food on an ongoing basis, that's an investment. See the difference? So, there's nothing wrong with spending money on food. But if I have to borrow money to spend money on food, I'm accumulating debt because once I eat the food, I get the benefit of the food for the moment that the food is in my body, but then it's gone. And I need more money to buy more food. But if I take out a loan of $100 and I use it to get some soil and some seeds and whatnot, and I build myself a garden that will generate more than $100 worth of food for me over the course of the year, well, that's an investment, right? That's better. It's costing me less to eat now because I can generate more for that for myself, or the surplus I can sell. So this is the difference. So there's a difference between borrowing money to go take a vacation and borrowing money to pursue your education, once you've taken the vacation, yes, you get the benefit of the rest and relaxation of the vacation, the experience, but the money is gone. Money you've spent on your education, you can then parlay your education into greater wealth to pay back the loan and then some. So this is what Mr. Carney wants you to focus on. Not all spending is equal. So by dividing operating and capital costs budgets, we get to see that when we're making a long-term investment, let's say in a pipeline or high-speed rail that will take 10 years to build, we count it as a capital expense so that we don't keep coming around and says, oh my God, you're running irresponsible deficits, because we will know that for the day-to-day operation of Canada, this, whether or not we are in deficit, and on that front, Mr. Carney plans to level us off within 3 years. We'll see if he can do it, but that is the plan. So to reduce the amount of annual spending on operational things from a 9% increase every year to a 2% increase year over year. That will be the objective. So just wanted to share these little details with you here. Pretty important stuff. And just to understand the economics of it all. Hopefully you have found this information and the way we presented it today to have some value. And there is a lot going on in the chat. Oh my God, Kids and Cubs, you guys are really busy. Gee, can't wait to read all the stuff that you've had to say. I was following and all of it until about the time Mr. Grizzly had to leave. And then, well, you know, I'm a little busier after that. So I was not being able to interact with the chat as much. But I see that you have contributed a lot. So, and I always look forward to reading what you have to say. When I write the episode descriptions, I go back and are able to see what the chat said. And I'm always pleasantly surprised. Well, not even surprised now, because I'm coming to expect it, but I'm always pleased at the level of the discourse. And I do note today in the chat that there was an attempt to dominate the conversation that nobody in the chat decided to engage with. And I appreciate very much those who showed up today in the chat, maintaining the space in the chat for everybody else to have discussions, while one person was trying to control what was being discussed, or I shouldn't say control, but set the tone for what should be the discussion and how it should take place. So very well done, Kids and Cubs. Very well done. All right. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really love it when you do. I'm just noticing, Kids and Cubs, I did not do the market thing this morning. So we will just take a little look at that before we go here. And markets just opened in the Americas, pretty much down all around, between a quarter of a percent and let's say just under 2%. Nothing massive, but definitely not an up day on the markets. It wasn't an up day in Europe as well, but really only mild, nothing going down by more than a half a percentage of a point. And it was a good day in the Asia Pacific region, however, with a lot of the indices going up. So maybe there will be something happening during the course of the day that might be able to pull the markets back up. But that's how stuff started today. All right. So, Kids and Cubs, if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, because, you know, you're busy, you're on the go, you've got things to do, and sometimes you like to take us with you and have us in your ears. Well, if you do not want to miss an episode of our audio version of the podcast, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page. If you scan that QR code that just appeared, podpage.com/the-truenortheagerbeaver, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there, you will find the subscribe button. And if you click it, it makes it such that when we have something that's fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. You don't even have to go looking for it. We make it that easy. Now, Kids and Cubs, if you did not smash with our buttons here on the YouTube channel early on, and you don't want to forget to do it before you leave, well, then that would be a good time, would say Kit Elaine. And, of course, the invitation for all of you to surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. Thank you so very much for those of you who have. We have our buttons there, like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate that when you click them because it helps us with the algorithm, and a bigger subscriber base is always a good thing. Not that we're obsessed with crowd size or anything like that. I just had to. I had to. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to support us in other ways, well, hey, help us fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Do your bit to keep your favorite beaver moist by contributing to the Eager Beaver Lodge Hydration Fund, the emergency hydration fund, by the way, through our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. If you like what you do, we do, and you would like to encourage us to do more, helping us with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you is very, very much appreciated. We are grateful for everything that you're able to contribute, no matter how small. There is no donation that is too small. We appreciate everything. So thank you for all that you do for us. We're just grateful. You are good to us, and we wouldn't be able to do this without you. We wouldn't have been able to do this for so long. At some point, it would have been prohibitive. So the fact that you were able, that you decided that this was worth supporting, and that you have given us the means to be able to continue doing this for you on a daily basis. Our 4th year anniversary, our 5th year, the start of our 5th season is going to happen on April 26th, right? So that we keep on being able to do this for you really is a testament to the support that you have been able to give us. So thank you for everything. And we hope to be with you for a very long time as we grow and are able to increase the amount of money that we are able to bring in order to improve our product even more for you in the coming years. But very grateful for your contributions. Now, if you are not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And we really, really love to hear from you. So please, if you can, write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That is our email address. And let us know what you think of the show. Good, bad, or ugly. We like to know what you think. It's really important to us. So please do write. Be gentle, of course, if it's ugly, because, we're sensitive creatures. But everything you say goes back into the show. Now, kids and cubs, a lot of you have been asking for a Q&A show, and we would love to do that, but we need the questions that you would like to ask. We have received some, but far from enough to do a show. So if you have any questions about politics in general, you'd like our takes on it, why it is that we think certain things are, why we believe certain things, why anything, I guess, or about the show itself, please send us the question at this address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and we will gladly put them all together and as a compilation, and then do a Q&A show for you. So once again, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. We need your questions if you would like it to happen. So thank you very much. Also, that's the address at which you can send us a direct transfer if you would like to support us financially, but you want to avoid the US CE Tech Bros and not give any money to them, and keep your transaction 100% Canadian, directly through your bank, directly to us, 100% Canadian transaction. And the bonus is that we get 100% of your donation. The CE Tech Bros don't take a cut. Donations through YouTube takes 30%, and through PayPal, there's not a set percent, but there's a set basic fee per transaction, and then amount afterwards per dollar donated. But with coffee, we get 90% or more than your donation. With YouTube, we get 70, and a direct transfer gives us 100. So we're just giving you that information so that as a buyer, you can make the decision for how you would like to contribute that most meets your values and corresponds with it. All right, kids and cubs. Let's see what else we have. I think that's everything for that. So, because democracy is something that you do, remember there's a Quebec Liberal leadership race underway, and we will get the results in June. So, please do what you need to do there, especially that's for the Liberal Party in Quebec, by the way. And in Manitoba, there is a leadership race for the Progressive Conservative Party, where the results will be delivered on the 26th, our birthday, by the way. But your votes need to be in by the 22nd if you're mailing them in, which is tomorrow. So you might, putting them in the mail today is probably not going to help you if they're not in there already. About the only way that you can do that is if you drive them over and bring them over yourself. So please do that. For Canada, overall, the general election, advanced polling is still open. Today is the last day for that, and the polls will be open until 9 o'clock p.m. tonight. So do make sure you go in to get your vote. If you want to vote early, you can still do it on the 22nd by going to your returning office, but that option will end after the 22nd. So after the 22nd, if you have not voted yet and you do want to vote, there's probably still some vote by mail, but again, make sure that your ballot is in on time, and it might be too late to request a ballot in order to get it in on time. But if you still have it, otherwise, you might have to go directly. You will have to go directly to a polling station on the 28th to cast your vote. So please do so. For those who want to go to advanced voting, Elections Canada. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Elections Canada has increased the number of staff at the early voting stations, based on the first day turnout. So it should take you, should not take you 1 or 2 hours to do it today if you are going early. All right. What? Oh, Lords. Okay, I see the chat there. I am not going to engage with that one because doing so could only get me into trouble. Not that I mind that kind of trouble, but and I know that I was going to say, but we're a family show, but then again, we're a different kind of family. So, you kids, I love you so much. You guys are wonderful. So yes, democracy is something that you do. Please do find out about your candidates, phone bank, knock on doors. This is the final push. Remember, tell your friends you're going to vote, get them excited to vote, ask them if they're going to vote. If they're not, ask them why not, right? We need the good turnout there. And if you haven't voted yet, you're planning to go on the 28th, bring some friends along with you, because friends do not let friends do democracy alone, and make a day out of it, right? Go have some treats afterwards, or have a night at the movies or whatever, right? Just have a fun time. All right. And Kids and Cubs, I do believe, if everything goes right, that we will have an election night results viewing special, hopefully with some guests from all across Canada who will be joining us. So if you're watching the results on election night, well, why not join us and let's watch it together as a damn fam? Okay. We're going to have some fun. All right. Kids and Cubs, that's all I got from you. I got for you for that, not from you, for you from that. Words of wisdom. You know what? I don't really have anything other than have plenty of Kleenex around if you're congested. Have lots of boxes of Kleenex strategically placed all around the house, because you never know when you're going to need them. And I need it really right now. I think you can hear it in my voice. I think everything from here to here is completely stuffed up. So I will be letting you go very soon. And of course, Kids and Cubs, as we usually sign off, kids, it can be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between. Since Mr. Grizzly's not here to do it, Mr. Beaver is going to cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kiss Cubs. For the Easter egg, just wanted to read a little something that I had promised to read you in the previous show, but I had brought up the wrong Justin Ling article. It was still a good article, but wasn't the one that I had said that I was going to read. And I did promise I would bring it to you when I had the opportunity, and I do. It was Justin Ling talking about the actual debate, because I was mentioning that I seem to see all around that a lot of people were thinking that Pierre did really well, whereas I thought he had choked somewhat. And I was wondering if there was anybody else that shared my opinion on this. And I did find Justin Ling here saying the following: "We'll have to see what Canadians think of the debate, but here's my take. Mark Carney won, and it wasn't even close. He was even-tempered, he sounded prime ministerial, he rattled off plans, promises, and numbers without hesitation. He managed to turn questions about his record at Brookfield, including its use of tax havens, into a point about his experience. I think that for Canadians who are anxious and nervous about what the future holds, his performance was pretty comforting, particularly for those who may have watched him struggle in the French debate last night. He even managed to get in his favorite line about Trump, quote, 'They want to break us so they can own us.' He was helped enormously by Jagmeet Singh, who was in fine form. Singh's campaign has been nothing short of a mess thus far, a far cry from the energetic and charismatic leader who hit the campaign trail in 2019 and 2021. But that Singh appeared on the debate stage tonight. I doubt it won him any converts tonight. Still, it may have stopped the bleeding. And then there's Pierre Poilièvre. I think he may have excited his core supporters, but I think he looked ideological, defensive, and without any new ideas. It's been clear that his campaign refuses to pivot or change from the strategy that they drew up long before the political ground shifted underneath them. If affordability and desire for change overcomes anxieties around this trade war and the faith of the liberal world order shifted underneath, let me try that sentence again. I apologize. It's been clear that his campaign refuses to pivot or change from the strategy that they drew up long before the political ground shifted underneath them. If affordability and desire for change overcomes anxieties around this trade war and the fate of the liberal world order, Poilievre could still win this election. But I think tonight's performance was a tactical error from Poilievre. But tonight's biggest loser, the Debates Commission. I know I've said this multiple times now, but this commission, which was created by an act of parliament and is paid for with taxpayer dollars, has utterly disgraced itself. Its decisions were erratic and against his own rules. I think the Green Party has incredibly good grounds for a lawsuit against the commission, and I hope they win. But that is its ineptitude in allowing a band of disruptive partisan advertisers access to this incredibly important event, robbed real journalists of the chance to press these leaders, is inexcusable, and we won't get that time back. So there you go, kids and cubs. That's all I got from you. I keep on saying from you. That's all I got for you today. A big celebration and 3 cheers goes out to the women of our national women's hockey team for winning the silver. A lot of people always frame it as losing the gold, but I will say winning the silver because it was a fierce competition and a very, very excellent match. And I, for one, am very happy about the performance of our team, if not, of course, the ultimate outcome. All right, kids and cubs, that's it for me. I'm going to wave bye-bye, and we will see you tomorrow.